We're with Michael Coxon in North Sails in Sydney, and it's been a great summer. Michael, what went wrong?
I don't think a lot went wrong this year. I think the sailing and the industry's had, especially out of Sydney's had a fantastic summer. From the Hobart race, McConaghy 38, more recently the 18-footers last week. Etchells Regatta's coming up. It's been a really fun summer.
So what about the Etchells?
The Etchells are they've had a very busy season. There was the Worlds in Hong Kong, and they were back in November, and we're really pleased with that. We got the top 10 boats were North Sails, which was phenomenal for us. We couldn't ask for a better result, and now we're rolling into the local season. GT Graham Taylor, who got third at the Worlds, with Grant Simmer and Mothi Jarvan sailing with him. They got third there, and then they came down. GT went to Melbourne and managed to win the Nationals, so with a different crew. So we had Richie Allenson with him and James Mayo. So GT's had a great summer, and we're off to the Etchells State Championships in Lake Macquarie tomorrow, actually. So we'll have a good turnout up there, I think.
And you've just done the JJs. What's been happening with them?
When I say I've done the JJs, people get a little confused. My nephew is of the same name. He's just done the JJs on Thurlow Fisher, and I've been coaching him and a number other of my clients, and really pleased with the results there again. North Sails took the top 5 places, and I was coaching a number of the boats, and the boat that won Smeg was a fantastic effort by them. I mean, those boys just came off back-to-back winning the Australian 16-foot skiff championship, I think, for the 6th time, and stepped straight back into the 18 and have taken the 18 out.
Well, that's a first, isn't it?
It is a first, and they're a very, very talented crew, and a pleasure to work with. And I must say, when I work with them, I'm often a little embarrassed, because the boats you go out with tend to get sped up more than they do, because they're already pretty well on the pace. They put a lot of preparation in. They do their preparation off the water. Very dedicated. I'm often meeting them at 6:30 in the morning and putting rigs in during the week before they go to work, and having a play with things, and then we'll go out on the water. And they're a unique crew. They're the only crew I know, when you go out in the water, even when they're relaxing, they're focusing and working hard at it. Example being, if you're two-boating, you will, and you go to talk to the other boat, instead of them just standing by, they'll do these figure of eights as fast as they can. They're just jibing, tacking, whilst while they're just waiting for you to get back to do a two-boat lineup again. But that just shows you the level of dedication and professionalism in that crew.
Also, too, is that the New Zealanders came second, so that's...
fantastic effort, and I've been predicting that the Kiwis would win the JJs for the last 3 or 4 years.
Why is that?
Well, it's interesting. The 18-footers in Sydney are owned by the 18-foot Skiff League at Double Bay, and they do a great job in preserving the class, and they have done over the last few years, where it's been difficult to get sponsorship and funding. So what they did is they took on the formula where they own the boats, and they organise most of the sponsors, and they put restrictions, both in sail restrictions, mast restrictions, foil restrictions, and they have what they call an SRD, which is a sail registration date, which is very early on in the season. But that sail registration date is actually measuring everything in from the boats, and need to be measured in the masts, the sails, the foils, and that's in October at the beginning of the season, and the JJs are in the end of February, so some 5 months later. So what it means is, once you've registered your sails, you cannot replace them after that, or your spars. Now, and also they're only allowed 3 new sails a year, where normally if you're going to a world championship and you had 6 sails on your boat, most boats would be replacing all 6. So the offshore boats, being the Kiwis and the Poms, were out there this year, and we're also hoping to have Howie Hamlin from America. Unfortunately, Howie was not well and couldn't attend the regatta. but they don't have those restrictions on them, so they actually can continue to develop right through until the beginning of the regatta. And I think as sailing is both a crew and an equipment sport, I think if you play your cards right, there's opportunities to actually improve over that period. And that's why I'm not surprised the Kiwis are up there and pushing hard at winning the regatta, and I'd keep a good close eye on them for next year.
So the big boat sailing is also going through some turmoil too, isn't it?
Well, turmoil. I mean, a little. I'd
Changes?
say changing of the guard and the sad, very sad news that we all learnt not long after the Hobart race that Bob Oatley passed away, and Bob was in his late 80s and just such a stalwart for yachting. I think he's just about single-handedly put Australian big boat sailing back on the map. Campaigning his boat, his boat's Wild Oats. He's got both the 100-footer and the 66-footer. Campaigning them out of Sydney has been fantastic for the sport and for the industry. And it's so sad that he's passed on. But I was very pleased to learn recently. We've had a meeting with the Wild Oats guys, and their Sandy Oatley, Bob's son. One of his sons is really keen to keep the campaign going, and they've got big plans for the coming season. In fact, you'll see Wild Oats 100 out sailing a lot more leading up to the Hobart and doing a lot more lead-up work. One of their reasonings is they felt, as a lot of us did in the Maxi fleet in the Hobart race, they were undercooked, and what I mean by that is it's good training and practicing in perfect conditions, but when it does go bad, as the southerly did come through, and the seas built up, and the squalls came through, all of us were caught short. And I think all of us who are honest on the big boats would be honest and say, yes, we were caught short. We're experienced. We're all been doing it for many, many years. But the fact is, doing it in anger is different to practicing in pristine conditions. And the reality is, a lot of us had issues, including Perpetual Oil that I was on. We know Ragamuffin had issues, Rambler, Comanche and Wild Oats. And I think we'd all be taking a different preparation to next year's race.
And they'll be doing the Gold Coast race and up into Hamilton Island this year?
Oh, most definitely they'll be, I believe they're doing the Gold Coast and perhaps even, I think it's the feeder race up to Hamilton Island. And
well, that all as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they'll definitely be doing Hamilton Island. I mean, as we know, the Oatley family own Hamilton Island, and Wild Oats is a part of the whole package of promoting the island and being up there for race week.
And Sid Fisher's retired?
Yeah, I heard that officially on the weekend. Ian Murray mentioned it to me last week, and then I had a chat to David Witt down the 18-footer park. And David's been with Sid for the last 5 years, but apparently Sid's decided to call it quits. I mean, Sid. I mean, I remember sailing with Sid I did my first Hobart in 1979 with Sid Fisher. So and I thought he was an elderly man then, and probably my age now. And Sid just kept on going, and but I believe that he's finally decided to hang up his sea boots.
And now Perpetual Loyal, the part of the trio.
Yeah, well, I've been with Perpetual Loyal for the last 5 years, and really enjoyed the program. It's basically the fact that it's run, it raises money for charity. In those 5 years, I think that Anthony Bell has raised over $5 million for the Humpty Dumpty, which is a children's charity, children's hospital charity, Humpty Dumpty Foundation. It's a great cause. Anthony did mention leading up to this year at some fundraisers that it would be when I say this year's Hobart, the Hobart we just had, he mentioned that there was going to be the last Hobart for Perpetual Loyal. However, I think having not finished the race, I think he perhaps is having second thoughts, and he's talking about the options of how we get on the starting line again. So
that's good.
nothing definite at this stage, but we're certainly looking at the options of how we'd actually front up again and finish on a positive note.
Now, McConaghy boats have got two classes, they're 38 and they're 31. They've just launched their 31. How do you think that'll go?
I think it'll be a great boat. I mean, it's on its way to Sydney now. We just there are two boats on their way to Sydney, which we're just doing sales for now, and we're looking forward to getting out and helping support that boat, help support the class. I think that it'll work out very well with the 38. The 38 is obviously being a larger boat, as a higher dollar value boat, and it's been successful in its first 3 years. And I think that it will open up to people whose budgets don't reach to the 38. If you look at the 38, I watched the Nationals on Pittwater a couple of weeks ago, and it was fantastic racing. I always say to people that the 38s are the most fun I have had racing a yacht. And whether you're watching them or actually on board them, whether you're coming first or last, you end up laughing because they're such a challenge on the short course in boat handling. Every member of the crew is hands-on the whole way around the track, and it's not unusual for first to end up last by the bottom mark and last to end up first. If you looked at the last race of the Nationals, it was very, very interesting. Dark Star, John Bacon and his crew had positioned themselves to have a stranglehold on the trophy right up to rounding the last mark. They rounded the last mark second, and that put them well in control. All they had to do was get to the downwind run to the finish, and that meant they had the trophy. And would have wrestled that off Leslie Green, who won the previous two trophies of the national championships. And what happened was the wind died out. It was a very light, tricky day. And Ginger, who actually rounded the mark, I think around about fifth, she ended up coming down, and they got separation, what you would do if you were the boat from behind. And poor old Dark Star went from second to finishing sixth, and I think Ginger held her fifth spot, but that was enough to give her the trophy on account back. And all credit to Leslie Green. I mean, Leslie, I think would mind me saying I think he's 84 now, and that's his third national championship in what we consider to be a very physical boat. It's a credit to him and his crew, their consistency and how well they go. So it just shows, doesn't matter what age you are, you can get in there and have fun out yachting, and you can win at the highest level.
Well, that's one of the glories of sailing, isn't it? One of the good things.
Well, it is. I mean, yachting and sailing is one of the few sports you can basically be competitive from the age of 8 to 80, or as Leslie just proved, 84. 84. Gordon Ingate, who's a famous yachtsman in Sydney. I mean, I believe that this is his 90th year coming up, and he won the Dragon Nationals 2 years ago and came second this year. So it's amazing that you can have a sport that you can actually participate in and still be, if you surround yourself with the right people, and Gordon does, as does Leslie, you surround yourself with the young people and you can actually be competitive all your life in yachting.
Another thing that's happened just recently was Alex Thompson's boat, the Hugo Boss. They found it in Patagonia after 10 years.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I actually was just breezing through last night watching TV, looking at the internet, and I saw that. And I was amazed. And I was amazed that something in the world today, that something that big could be lost on a pristine shoreline and not found for that period of time. It dumbfounded me that it wasn't hidden.
No. And
how it could be something that big in this day and age could be lost for 10 years.
13,000 miles it had done by itself.
Yeah. But it just shows you there's still parts of the world that you can get out and explore, because if no one had found it, it means no one had been around there.
Well, Patagonia is a pretty barren joint, mate.
Oh, look, it might be barren, but it looked pretty nice, the background.
Well, Alex, I'm sure will be down there shortly.
Yeah.
You might need a spare for the one day.
Yeah.
So what else is happening? What are you guys about to release a new sail? Are you a new type of sail?
Well, we're
resin
always
resin?
working. Our latest project is 3DI, which is when I say latest project, it's been in the mix for some 7 or 8 years now. And but we're always developing it. We released it to the market commercially 4 years ago. And what we've been working hard on is a product called 3DI Raw. And when we initially introduced the 3DI, we were conservative on its structure and weight to ensure that we met the client's expectations. And as time's gone on, we've looked at ways of reducing weight. So we used to make the sails to be equal as our 3DL sails, which are the lightest membrane in the marketplace. And now we actually, with Raw, can actually get the sails lighter again and with more durability. So effectively we used to have put tapes, which are still available if you want them for more of a cruising product. We can put tapes on the outside of the 3DI sails, and they're purely there for abrasion. And we now move the tapes, and that's what we call the Raw product, which reduces the weight.
And when will that be available?
Oh, it's available now. What's happening is it's just that it's filtering. I think what you're referring to, it's filtering down to the whole market.
Oh, is it?
Where previously it was more of a Grand Prix product. For instance, Comanche's mainsail in the Hobart race, 3 reef, 3DI Raw. So it's certainly a product for everybody because it's not just limited to Grand Prix, a day racing. It is an offshore product also.
So in a race like the Bondi, the round the world race, they'd all be using Raw, would they? Or?
Yes, but yes and no. They may put the tapes on for the durability because
for chafing and that.
Yeah, for the chafing because they're short-handed. If you look at North Sails were just awarded the contract again last week for the Volvo race, which the Volvo, as most people now know, is a one design class. It was a successful one design class in the last Volvo race. One design hulls, one design mast by Southern Spars, and one design sails by North. Well, the sails, the 3DI sails that we used in the last race proved so successful that they basically had no major failings. I think the girls had one major failing. They had a tip out, and one sail was destroyed. But I think that was it in the whole round the world race. Was only one sail failure. Again, that's testament to 3DI. And we'll be going again with a similar, the same product. We're reviewing it. We're going with the same product, but I do believe it will have the tapes on it.
Oh, there you go. So, what's your plans? I believe you bought yourself a new Etchells?
No. I've sold my old Etchells with the purpose, the goal of buying a new Etchells. Reason being is I want to help spur the local Australian fleet on. We have a relatively new mould, but not a lot of boats have been built out of it. And I think it's healthy for the class to have new boats. There's been a trend to do up old boats because there was a perception that the old boats had some advantages. So the new boats have certainly proven themselves out of the new mould. A gentleman named Michael Manford has won a national championship out of the new mould. So that's my goal, is to work my way into a new boat, and they're just doing a review of the class rules to tighten them up at the moment, the international governors, and I'm just waiting for the rules to be tightened up so we know exactly what we're dealing with, and then I hope to build a new one. And I think there'll be a number of other Australians who get on board with the same program, including Tom King, the Australian 470 gold medalist and Etchell world champion. He's got the same plan. He hopes to be the next boat out of the mould. And so we'll be moving that way, and I think it'll be really healthy for the class. I think we've got half a dozen other owners who will go towards new boats, and that means of all of our boats trickle down into the fleet and make the fleet stronger again.